As promised, we're joined right now by a legendary boxer, entertainer, and entrepreneur, the former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He was the youngest heavyweight to win the WBC, WBA, and IBF belts, and the first heavyweight to hold all of those titles simultaneously. He was inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame in 2011, and he is getting ready for the lineal MMA heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou fight against the actual champion, Tyson Fury. It's going to be for the baddest man on the planet title. It's a match coming up October 28th. It's in Saudi Arabia. It's on pay-per-view. We are joined right now by Mike Tyson. Mike, it's been a minute. It's great to have you. How you feeling, Mike?
Hey, Jim. Man, it's beautiful to hear your voice, brother.
My man, Mike, it is beautiful to hear your voice. How you doing? How you feeling?
Everything's beautiful, man. I can't believe I'm going to this next stage.
Tell me about the next stage. What's the next stage for you? What's it feel like?
Hey, just the sky's the limit, man. I'm training Francis. I'm going to enter the Birmingham Roller World Cup competition with my birds. Hey, man, I'm just happy. My cannabis company's #1 in the world, and I got my boxing equipment's coming out. I'm just ecstatic, man.
Mike Tyson joining us. You know, Mike, I've got this podcast called The Reinvention Project, and my thing has been, like, you and I are both in our 50s. I'm trying to figure out if it's possible for us to live our best lives now as opposed to having our best life behind us. Do you feel like the best, like this is the best version of you right now?
Well, at this moment, yes, because I'm more conscious and cognizant of my situations now, and I just have a family atmosphere in my life. Is just, if you didn't know who I was from the past, you wouldn't know who I am. I'd be a different person.
I love that. Mike Tyson joining us. All right, Mike, talk to me for a minute about Francis. How did this come to be? Like, you're going to get him ready to fight Tyson Fury. How did the partnership come together, and why is that something you want to take on?
Well, you know, his team reached out to me. I was interested in doing it, and we went through a few sessions, and it was very successful. I think he had the aptitude to be a professional fighter. He has the experience from fighting in the ring as a UFC champion. And I always said one day, maybe it's not, that the heavyweight champion of boxing will be the heavyweight champion of UFC. You unify both titles. That's going to happen one day.
We're talking to Mike Tyson. So, Mike, yesterday you posted a cool-looking video on social media with highlights of the masterclass training that you've been putting Francis through in order to get him ready. What have been some of your biggest takeaways from the time that you have spent with him in the gym?
That he's willing to do it. He's putting in all the work. He's working hard. I'm working him pretty hard, and I know he's sore because the first time I worked out with him, and then the next day I saw him, I asked him, was he sore? He said no, and that was a big mistake. So he's been going through heavy artillery training. He's ready.
We're talking to Mike Tyson. So, Mike, Francis is a pretty big dude now, but Fury, man, this cat is enormous, like 6'9", weighed in at 268 for his last fight in December. From what you've seen in your work with Francis, do you think that he can handle Fury's punching power?
Absolutely, because, you know, Tyson Fury, he got dropped by a small guy. I forgot his name, Covington. I forgot his name that he dropped for. It was early in his career. And listen, this guy punches like, man, God knows who, man. He's fast. He moves quicker. I worked with his speed. And listen, man, he only has to land 1 or 2.
Listen, if
Tyson's never been in the ring with a guy that could punch this hard.
You don't think?
No, I think this guy punched harder than anybody ever fought.
Let me ask you this. Like, you've got a profound appreciation for the tactical and the technical elements of the sport, going back to your time of watching film of the all-time greats with Cus D'Amato when you were young. Like, strategically, other than Francis hitting him in the face, what does he need to do to win this fight?
Oh, he just needs to go all-out aggression, punching to the body, bringing it to the head, as we've been working with. He's moving his head. He's getting it together, and he's really determined to do this stuff. He really wants to do this for his country, his people, his whole patriotic pride. This is really interesting. I'm very ecstatic about doing this, like we said before.
We're talking to Mike Tyson, who's helping Francis Ngannou. Mike, if he pulls this off, how big of an upset would that be?
That would be a bigger upset than Douglas Tyson.
Would it?
Yeah.
Boy, that was something else, Mike. That night was just so. Everything about that was so strange. As you think back on that night, what do you remember?
I remember I took a good ass whooping.
Oh, man. You're the best, Mike. That's great. I mean, you got to tip your hat sometimes, right? Anything can happen in the ring. Sometimes you just have to tip your hat.
But when it happens bad, you overcome it.
Hey, Mike, you know what? Explain this to me as a prize fighter. You know, some guys, like when they get knocked out for the first time, man, they're never the same because something breaks, right? Something snaps. They're never the same. How about you? What kind of an effect did that have on you? Because nobody ever expected that to happen, yourself included, right? Or did you maybe know?
Yes, absolutely. But you know what? I've studied the great fighters before me, and they've gotten their ass kicked a lot worse than I did, and they came back to become champion again. So I never was discouraged. I know I would be champ again.
Mike Tyson is joining us. So, Mike, let me ask you something. It's another crossover event, right? It's a thing that's getting more and more popular. So, as a boxing Hall of Famer and icon, what do you make of the current state of the sport overall? Do you like what you see?
Absolutely, especially since the MMA guys started getting involved, because they're bringing a different clientele to the boxing arena, and boxing so desperately needs it. So you take a guy like, what's his name again? Crawford and Spence, right?
Yeah.
Jake Paul outsell those guys. He's not a world-class. Well, he is now, but he didn't start off as a world-class fighter. He started off as a joke. And he brought, 70 million people to his fight? Listen, he's a boxing promoter's dream.
All right, so what you just said is so interesting, that you're talking Spence and Crawford, two of the best fighters in the world, and now we're talking about a YouTuber who is bringing more eyeballs to it than some of the best of the best. I was about to ask you, Mike, is Jake Paul good or bad for the sport of boxing? Well, you just answered it, right? You think he's really good for the sport.
Well, he's a better boxer now. And
you know
listen,
know
what's certified helping boxing? And when you bring finance to boxing, when you bring notoriety to boxing, and that is what he's doing. He's bringing more people's eyes to the sport of boxing, and that's helping the sport.
Hey, Mike, let me ask you this about him. He's definitely improving. Like, he's improving. He's gotten much better as a fighter. When you look at him as a boxer, as a Hall of Famer, do you see a guy who's a boxer, or do you see an entertainer, or do you see a content provider? Like, what do you think when you see him?
I see all three of them.
You said something also about him recently that I thought was interesting. You said he's got the light. He's touched. He's got the light. What do you mean by that? He's got the light.
Hey, it's his day. That means it's his day, and nothing can stop him.
So, Mike, as I mentioned at the very top, you're involved in a lot of things. You talked about some of the things that you're involved in. In addition to this fight in Saudi Arabia coming up on the 28th, what are the things outside the fight game that interest you the most right now?
Well, listen, we got to remember, when we're going to the fight, it's going to be Riyadh season, and that's going to be the biggest time of the year over there. So, big up to Riyadh season.
Hey, Mike, explain what that is. For those who do not know, what is Riyadh season, and how big is that?
Well, that's the biggest time of the year there. And it's like, man, what I was explaining is that it's something that I could never imagine. It's just so beautiful.
All right, so, Mike, leave me with this thought. How do you think that fight is going to play out? Is it going to play out with somebody lying on their back, or do you think it's going to be a long fight?
About that. And there's no doubt about that. And don't be surprised if Tyson takes the mat either.
Mike Tyson joining us again. This fight, Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury, it's for the baddest man on the planet. It's October 28th. It's in Saudi Arabia. It's on pay-per-view. Iron Mike Tyson, my guest. Mike, it is great to get caught up with you. Great to hear your voice. I appreciate you, man. Great to have you back.
Thank you, brother love.
Thank you, brother love. And Mike Tyson, if you need him. When you think about Mike, and there was a tweet to this effect, what do you think when you think about Mike and what Mike did early in his career? There was nothing like it. Like, I have never seen other heavyweights look more terrified in the ring before fights. I mean, some of the baddest alphas ever literally shaking and looking terrified. I had never seen that before, and frankly, I don't think I've ever seen that since. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell to be the first to know when we do upload a new video.